Hey folks, gonna do a quick review of SPY today, Monday the 22nd, May 2023. It was a range-based day. We did open up basically right where Friday the 19th closed, which was kind of fascinating. The big indication for me on where we were going to go, at least near the open, was the add and volt bands. You can see here they're both green here at the open and pretty strong as well with the bright color. Ticks were closing above zero, but this was really scalp worthy at best. It's always a gamble to make any kind of trade near the open, even if you're following the internals. There's really no telling what could happen. Trend also started to show a potential for balance. Once we hit this peak here, we did print some extremes, which then caused us to have a nice move down, and it sold off quite heavily. We broke the tick weighted average price, came all the way down here. Now, this is relatively close to the Friday lows. So if I zoom out here, you can notice the extreme closures, right? So the downward triangle, if you're familiar with the indicator pack I released, I did do a video on that, so I would recommend you watch that. You don't really need that indicator to know that that was the low of Friday, but no surprise, when we did hit that, I would expect to see at least a little bit of a pause, doji candle, something. In this case, flew right back up, rather extreme, into the tick weighted average price. So at this point, we're at about 10 o'clock and we've built two levels here. So in the morning, I see that and I'm beginning to suspect that perhaps we'll have a range-based day. Obviously, as I've already said, anything can happen. So at this point, I'm just taking little scalps in favor of the direction verified by the add in the volt bands. Notice they were green the entire day. So I did a lot of long scalps. I did do a couple of short scalps when triangles here for the 20 SMA on add and volt were showing a potential for a reversal setup, but I like to short when we're at key levels. So either tick level extremes at highs, not at lows, or TWAP, my favorite setup right now. Trying all this new indicator pack out. The midday got kind of interesting. So in the other videos, I've detailed that around 12:30, 1:30. I kind of like those times and I try to watch for setups there. You can see here we did have maybe somewhat of a base formed midday. We're below the TWAP though. No levels really here, so to speak, other than just the basic price action itself. And we're looking potentially bearish with the add showing a reversal being under the trend, and Volt is doing something similar around here. So just didn't really like this setup. This was my first, I guess, nicer long of the day. This one was watching here at this level, and I'm going to show you why. I already had this level here earlier, but I did catch this move up. Felt a little bit like cheating because not everything was really clear here. But I did catch this one, trimmed it out, and kind of got tired of holding it, honestly. Just given the rest of the day, I didn't expect much here. So I did have a small bit and managed to catch this run up. I closed out somewhere around here, and I'm glad I did. I did see that we're staying heavily above zero at this point. We did start to have some imbalance showing on trend with the white dots. Everything's very bright for the most part. The triangles representing the trend on add and volt are showing us that we're definitely long and bullish. But just with the kind of day we were having, I knew this level was up here. It hadn't been touched at all the rest of the day. I wanted to make sure I managed my risk accordingly, and I'm glad I did, because as you can see, the sell-off that occurred, we lost TWAP again, we lost this level, and went all the way back down to this level down here. So one thing that I will do here is on days where it's range bound, and just other days in general, I will set these to 600 because I feel like it gives me just a little bit more information on the breaks on tick past that 5 plus minus 500. So it grabs a little bit more of this kind of traffic here. So you can see We printed this level here earlier. So running 600s gave me that information, and that's where I took the risk to long here on this extreme closure downwards, and it paid off. My first trim actually was this entire candle because we had this level here, and that's right where this base was forming as we oscillated around TWAP most of the early day. Obviously not knowing what could happen, I took a first trim here, second trim here, and in general, this day wasn't really something I would consider as tradable. Nothing that I would put big size on. Apparently there also was a fake AI generated news piece or hit piece that the Pentagon was bombed. So that was pretty wild. I'm not even sure where that ended up here on the chart, but I recall it had an impact. Definitely, that's a good reason to always ensure that you are managing your trades, you have your stop set, and, be smart. So turning on the standard deviation bands for TWAP, we don't really see, I guess, a whole lot other than every time that first deviation is hit, that's typically where we reversed. Anything outside of that was usually where we printed an extreme. So a little bit of interesting analysis there. One thing I have done also recently is turn these off. I've started to use the TWAP on the monthly and weekly basis. Since today is Monday, I'm not going to show you the weekly because it's literally the same thing as today's session, but the monthly, I do find this one interesting. At first glance, doesn't look very exciting, but I'm going to turn the second band on. And I noticed last Friday, this was kind of the deal here where every time the price would reject after a certain point in the day, it was at this monthly standard deviation, the second deviation high here. And that trend pretty much continued today. So not sure if it's going to be something that's really reliable as an indicator for trade setups on rejections or reversals, but it's there. And there's a couple of other days in the past where it seems to have some kind of impact. We'll take a look real quick at trend. Here on trend, we see pretty much similar to last Friday where we're just chopping inside or right directly under this area here. And this is just an awful area for trading. Anytime we're in this balance zone, we'll just walk away. It's not great trading. We had some breakouts and fake outs. One thing you can go and look at real quick here is the ADD and the VOLD. So again, this trend has been continuing where ADD and VOLD are at odds with each other. We started the day with ADD up 600, and we almost made it to the 1500 kind of bullish trending area, and just rejected really hard here, and actually broke zero for a moment, came back up and just wiggled around the rest of the day. Didn't really go very far after that. And if we look at the VOLD, though, it's a completely different story. So VOLD started almost at zero. I mean, relative to these freakishly large numbers, we did bounce, 0 point, let's see, 1008. So yeah, same time, but clearly a much stronger uptrend all day. Didn't have any issues, right? Compared to ADD is definitely flatter, I would say. So just something to keep an eye on when you see that. Typically, at least when I see that, it results in this kind of day. I'm going to wrap it up here. That concludes today's review. Hope you all did well out there, and as always, happy trading.